Hello, everyone, and welcome to KongaCast, where we discuss all things gaming, especially Nintendo. I'm your host, Ryan, and I'm here today with my boy, Adonis Giovettis. Adonis, say hello.
Hello, everyone. It is so great to be back. I've been looking forward to this for so long. We are so sorry we took such a long break, but life happens. A lot of things have changed for us over the last however long it's been since we last spoke to you guys. But now we're back and talk about some video games, baby.
Absolutely, dude. Yeah, sorry it's been a while, but hopefully you like the new changes. We have the new recording, and maybe you're watching on stream as well. So Uh, let us know what you think of the new changes if you're recognizing anything. If you're still listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, that's fine too. We loved you listening from there. But
Of course.
let's just get into it, Adonis. So I say we should do a little bit of 2024 year in review, maybe a little bit of favorite games of 2024 since it's been so long since we've got together for the pod. Before we jump there, though, let's talk about a little bit about the Game Awards and a quick recap of like some of the big winners and some of the big reveals, which I think is even more important that we got out of the Game Awards. So, just to tee up some of the categories, so the big winner of the Game Awards, Astrobot, took home 4 wins, including Game of the Year. And then there were other games that received major recognition, such as Metaphor, Balantro, Black Myth Wukong, Helldivers 2, and the list goes on and on. So why don't we just start with the Game Awards and maybe start with Game of the Year? Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, of course. For me, Astrobot was the most marketable and the most widely accepted Game of the Year frontrunner. I think a lot of people expected Astrobot to win, not that it didn't earn that Game of the Year trophy. It was a fantastic game. Uh, Full stop. Great platformer, and also one of the only times I can imagine if I remember correctly, that a platformer did win Game of the Year. I think the last time was when It Takes Two, which technically kind of isn't a platformer, but kind of is. But my point is, it's been a while, and it's nice to see some appreciation thrown in the direction of platformers. It was a beautiful game, full with lots of little love letters to the fans and to the many IPs that Sony has under its umbrella. Say what you will about Sony, Astrobot is a good game. Not a good game; it's a great game, and it definitely did deserve all the praise that it got. That being said, the other Game of the Year contenders were just so good. I think that's where a lot of the frustration stems for a lot of people, that they kind of feel that a game like Black Myth Wukong, which is, kind of on the same par as like something like Elden Ring or Dark Souls from software, a fantastic game from a new studio, a really, really cool story, really great combat, really great visuals. And then there's something like Balatro, which is made by one guy, Poker 2, if you will. Um, I think that also really, really took the world by storm. And, uh, you know, things like Black Myth Wukong and Balatro, we really wanted those things to win. I myself did. Like for me, Black Myth Wukong was Game of the Year, but I don't think we should let that take away from how good Astrobot was. I think it really was great and it deserved its many awards. But curious what you think as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think all these nominees were excellent picks for nominees, and any one of them would have been deserving. So you mentioned Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, which is technically an expansion or a DLC, but that was up for
Yeah.
Game of the Year. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Metaphor ReFantazio were the other nominees. And again, I would have been fine with any of these winning. I don't think 2024 was like this overbearingly awesome year where there's like clear front runners or clear front runner for Game of the Year. All 6 of these were great games and would have been deserving in their own right. That being said, my heart loves to see a platformer win it, Astrobot. This game I have not played myself, but it clearly takes large inspiration from Super Mario Odyssey, some of the other Mario 3D games, and some other great 3D platformers from back in the day. So it was even funny when you saw the creators of Astrobot go up to accept the award for Game of the Year,
Oh,
and they kind of shout out Nintendo, but they kind of don't. They don't explicitly say Nintendo, but they do say, we've had large inspiration from games like Super Mario Bros. I think they name dropped Super Mario Bros, which is just so funny because this is a first person Sony studio saying this. And I think they were probably trying to dance around their words a little bit, but it was just really cool to see a game like this win, which is much more my wheelhouse than some of these other games that were up for Game of the Year.
Yeah, 100%. I figured you would. You big platformer guy. And for me, who's not necessarily a big platformer guy, like I feel like it's going to bring a lot more people into this genre to appreciate it better. And yeah, it's so funny that they really, really wanted to name drop Nintendo more, but they were kind of scared to. I don't blame them, to be totally honest with you. But yeah, definitely did deserve Game of the Year, even though we wished it was something else. Or at least I did. I can't speak for anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I was fine with it winning Game of the Year. Like I said, I was happy with it. It was also cool
Yeah.
to see games like Metaphor up for the award. Like, yes, Atlas is a big publisher. I'm sorry, big developer nowadays. But it's just also like a new IP. Like new IPs.
Yeah.
Balatro probably the coolest nomination. I love my indie games, so cool to see an indie game up for
Oh,
Game
yeah.
of the Year. And again, a game I haven't played myself, but from what I've heard, this game is terribly addicting. So I'm
Hmm.
sure whenever I get around to it, like it'll just suck all the life around me for 2 months as I just get enveloped in Balatro. So
It's
cool to
bad.
see an indie nominated for Game of the Year as well.
Agreed. Agreed. I think now, I think we want to talk about the reveals. Man, were we hit with some things from left field, man. I was not expecting these.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I mean, I know you have one big one that you were super stoked about, and of course that is the sequel to Elden Ring. So why don't we just start there, Adonis? Like, what is your impression when you're watching this trailer for the first time and that you realize it's not an expansion, it's a full-blown sequel?
When I tell you, like, I'm literally getting goosebumps just like bringing myself back to that moment where I saw From Software on the screen. The whole crowd goes wild. The chat of the live stream I was watching just starts going crazy. Oh my god, man! I actually screamed. Like I screamed in real life when I saw it, and I was so freaking bewildered to see that this was, and we had no idea this was coming. No leaks, no nothing. At least not any leaks that I knew of. Elden Ring Night Rain isn't necessarily a sequel to Elden Ring. It's more of a spin-off. It is something that From Software has never done before. It is a completely randomized roguelike set in the lands between, which is the world of Elden Ring. It has recycled bosses and recycled enemies, some new enemies. The map itself is a smaller, or I'm not smaller, but it is only Limgrave, but it's remixed Limgrave, so it looks like it, but kind of not. Some different elements that may change from run to run. Even some bosses from Dark Souls and possibly Bloodborne. That's what really. I saw the Nameless King, who's a very, very popular boss from Dark Souls 3. When I saw him flying around the lands between, my brain did not comprehend what I was seeing. I was so confused in a good way. So it looks like what they're doing is experimenting with a new game genre, something they've never done before. New director,
Yeah.
brand new director. This is not Hidetaka Miyazaki.
Oh wow, I didn't
Um,
realize new director.
yeah,
That's
and
interesting.
that says a lot about From Software, right? They've never worked with this guy, and they fully trust him to take this, something they've never done before, just letting him take it and be creative. Let him take the reins as the director, which I think should happen more often, even though it probably doesn't. Um, so it looks like it's going to be very similar to like Diablo with its like gear design. It's going to have different rarities of gear and weapons and abilities. It's going to be different every time you go. It's going to be about a half an hour run. It's going to be 3-player co-op. Although you can play solo. Um, and we don't know too much more about it at the moment. We know that it's going to be coming in 2025. What I really think is going on here is From Software's like, hey, check this out. See if you like it. If you like it, let us know. If not, let us know. While they're kind of cooking behind the scenes on something bigger. Much,
Yeah.
much bigger.
That's interesting. The point about the director, I didn't realize that Miyazaki was not heading this one. It looks like it's a gentleman named Junya Ishizaki, if my pronunciation is anything close to how it should be. And just looking at some of his credits, he's credited as additional crew on Elden Ring, Bloodborne, and Dark Souls. So cool to see From Software kind of cultivating more talent behind Miyazaki and giving them a chance to kind of shine with director on their own game. And to your point about the new genre, I think this is a great step for From Software to kind of delve their toes into this genre. Roguelikes and Souls-like go together like peanut butter and jelly. We've seen so many other studios kind of blend both elements of roguelikes and Souls-likes. So to see the studio that basically created the Souls-like kind of take a stab at it is super exciting, and I can't wait to see what they come up with. So really cool announcement. I think that was honestly the biggest announcement of the Game Awards is the fact that Elden Ring is getting a sequel and it's delving into a new genre, new mechanics. I thought that was super neat.
Agreed.
I think the second biggest announcement that we got out of the Game Awards was The Witcher 4. Now, this is a game, of course. CD Projekt Red does not come out with games all the time, but when they come out, they are big and very, I guess, shooting for the stars.
Yeah, like involved.
I'm trying to keep in mind Cyberpunk 2077 and kind of the mess
Yeah.
launched it. But from all accounts, it's a good game now. So anyway, The
Mhm.
Witcher 4, just getting the announcement that it exists and it's coming. Mostly a CGI trailer from what I saw. I don't think there was too much gameplay, if any. But just a great reveal and just great to kind of get the game concept out there for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be following Siri this time, which I think is a really nice passing of the torch.
Yeah,
Yes, I love Geralt. I know everybody loves Geralt, but Siri is a great character, I think. I think she should be taking the reins. That's kind of what Geralt was like, training her to do in
right.
terms of the story, right? A lot of people don't love that Siri is the main character. They were saying she was ugly. I don't know where that came from because if she's ugly, man, I sure am ugly myself. So yeah, I saw a lot of conjecture about that, but for me, I think it's great. The trailer was so cool. It was like the perfect blend of like spooky and action oriented with a little bit of story beat that you could kind of give us lots of time to think about how the story may progress. And CD Projekt Red, yes, they did take a hit with Cyberpunk 2077's release. There is no doubting that. But what they did also do was they stuck to the grindstone. They fixed everything that happened at launch. Yes, yes, yes. It should have been already like that when it launched. Yada yada. They added more content in a great DLC. I played it. I played the whole game. Actually, I'm sorry. I didn't play the whole game. I didn't beat the DLC. I'll make my way back around that at some point. But when I played the the Cyberpunk 2077 that I played was fantastic, and they have earned the right to be able to come out with something like this,
Yep.
and for us to be excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we initially got like the first teaser several months ago, and it was literally like a 15-second clip of like a mask in the snow or something like that.
Yeah.
So cool to see like the proper reveal. Again, even if it was mostly just CGI cutscenes, still really neat to kind of get the game concept out there. Other announcements that really caught my eye. I was really excited to see a lot of older franchises getting a new entry with a new development studios. Games like Ninja Gaiden, Ragebound. There's a new Double Dragon game that was shown off. Franchises that have been around for forever, but finally kind of coming back with a new entry. And a lot of these, including like a new Virtual Fighter game, a lot of these are development teams that have gotten the rights to the IP to develop on. So cool to see. I would say like game studios maybe that don't have a great idea or don't have really the passion to make a new entry in these older franchises, kind of pass the reins to indie developers or other studios and say, here's our IP. Maybe you know it best. Maybe you grew up with the game, whatever. Run with it. So cool to see games like Ninja Gaiden, Turok, Virtua Fighter, Double Dragon kind of get these new games from different studios.
Turok, I couldn't believe that. I was really surprised by that one.
Yeah,
When did
absolutely.
when did the original Turok come out?
I think the original was on the N64, like back in the
Wow.
97 or 96. Yeah.
Has it really been that long? That is before I was born. Wow.
Yeah, cool to see all that. Another one that jumped out to me, I got to talk about this one. So,
Oh yeah.
we got announcement of the sequel to Okami, and just the reveal alone is noteworthy because this is a game that came out back in 2006 for the PlayStation 2. It was a critical darling commercial failure. Just one of those classic instances of a game being great but not catching on. Originally developed by Clover Studio, directed by Hideki Kamiya. And if you've known the name Hideki Kamiya, you might know him from the Bayonetta series, the Beautiful Joe series, Wonderful 101. Um, Kamiya works on Okami and does a great job with it. Although after the game is created, Clover Studios closes, and Kamiya goes on to make Platinum Games, and that's where we get franchises like Bayonetta. Weird turn of events. I just have to walk everyone through this because this is just mind-boggling to me
Yeah.
too.
Totally.
Platinum Games, um, I, Kamiya leaves Platinum Games and takes some of his staff from Platinum Games to rejoin Capcom and to create a new studio called Clovers. And Clovers is the studio working on the sequel to Okami. So, in a very roundabout way, we have the same director and the same studio practically working on the sequel to Okami after the whole team had left and now has come back. So, just like a really roundabout kind of crazy story, but maybe that's just kind of how the industry works sometimes. But just talking about the game itself, I mean, Okami, like I said, critical darling, very much like a Zelda like, but also with a lot of Japanese mythology. Really, really special game. Really cool to see it get a sequel.
Agreed. And I think the crowd really went wild for this one, if I remember correctly. This
Yeah,
is a very near and dear franchise to a lot of people, and it's great to see. I don't have any personal experience in this IP, but to see a lot of people like their childhoods reignited when something like this is shown, like this is what it's all about, man. Like this is why I love video games. I have the same memories in so many games, and to see this to come back, especially with the story behind it. After having heard all that, imagine all of the turmoil and problems that they ran into,
yeah,
and now it's finally coming out, and people are so excited. And honestly, so am I. I mean, there's never been a greater time to get into Okami than right now. You know, well,
absolutely,
when it comes out.
absolutely. I mean, I I thought the Game Awards was pretty solid in terms of announcements. Like I said, I feel like it was kind of top heavy with Elden Ring and The Witcher having announcements. But there's some other really great stuff in there as well. Another one I got to talk about real quick is the announcement of Fumita Ueda's next game. And if you know the developer, he's the mind behind Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian. And so, like, those games alone should kind of tell everyone kind of the prestige of this new project. But in a very Ueda fashion, we don't get a huge glimpse of the game. But from what we saw of the game, it's very dystopian, very weird. It feels like it's like half natural, half robotic. What's going on in the environment, and looks like maybe you'll be scaling a bunch of big creatures again. Which, if Shadow of the Colossus is anything to go off of, that's a good thing. So cool to see a glimpse at Ueda's next game. I feel like that one's probably still a ways out, but hopefully here sooner rather than later.
Agreed. Maybe a while, but the longer you wait, the better the game is, in my experience.
Usually, unless it's some game in development hell, which we've seen now and again. But that's a tangent. That's a different story right there. So,
Got him.
anything else Game Awards related you wanted to talk about before we get into games we played this year?
No, not necessarily. It was nice to see that the Baldur's Gate developer got more time on the stage. They didn't get shoved off. He made a really great message to give more power to the gamers and the smaller studios, and to, you know, stop catering to billion-dollar companies. I'm totally paraphrasing. His speech was much better than how I'm making it sound right now. Highly recommend you check it out. It was a great message. Great guy all around. So that was nice to see. But other than that, I think I'm good.
Yeah, like I said, I thought it was a pretty solid showing this year. So, just getting right into the rest of 2024. So, I know you played a smaller number of games than I did. I made a concerted effort to kind of go through my backlog this year and really put a dent into it. And I'm happy to say I made it about halfway through my backlog. So my backlog going into 2024 was probably about 90 so games. And these are either games I have downloaded on Steam because Steam like lets games go for like $2 or $3 sometimes, and it's just like too easy to buy them. Or I
Crazy.
have like physically on the shelf behind me, and just never got around to getting to them. So I made like I said, concerted effort in 2024 to kind of tackle the backlog and really not buy that many games and really just go through what I have already. Happy to say I played 55 games this year. Most of those being games that were on the backlog. Sometimes, Mario Kart 8 is being included here, but that's just like you pick it up, you play it with your friends. That of course that's going to happen. So happy with my progress on the backlog this year. More work to do in 2025. But just talking about some of my favorite games that I played in 2024.
Let's hear them.
I'll give you my number 3 to start. All right. This is a game I had no idea that I would like, nor was it even a game on my backlog, but I just took a leap of faith and I tried it out. I tried out the original Fire Emblem for Game Boy Advance. And by original, I mean the first one that released in North America. So it's Fire Emblem The Binding Blade, as some people refer to it, but it's really the seventh one in the series. Let's not get into all that. There's a lot of weirdness with the series before it came over to the States. But yeah, Fire Emblem for the Game Boy Advance. What a game, man. I, again, did not think I'd be into a game like this. I've never really played a strategy RPG, but I was just scrolling through the Game Boy Advance app on the Switch, and I said, what the heck, let me just try this, not expecting to really follow through with beating it. But I was just enamored by it. I love the sprite work. I love the tactical gameplay. It really feels like the game's really good at making you feel smart. Like whatever moves you're making are impactful and smart decisions if you win the battle. And the game does a really good job of getting you attached to the story and attached to the characters. I followed the story closely. I was interested in what was happening. I know some people don't love the story because of maybe some plot holes here and there or things that don't make sense, but I really appreciated the story. I thought it was really good. I mean, you could say it's maybe a little cliche, a little too, I'm the hero, I got to save the world, but I don't think it needs to be anything more than that. It was great for what it was. And I got to talk about the presentation as well. I mentioned the sprite work briefly, but the game kind of presents itself to me as like a soap opera. Like in between the
Hmm.
battles, you get, you know, your character art talking to each other, most of the time with static expressions, but it kind of like to me emphasizes the dramaticness of the story in a way that I really appreciated. And again, the writing is really good and the music is really good too. So, really just hit like all the things I'm looking for in a game while also being a genre I never really tried out. So, I was really happy I tried this one and glad I got to play it this year.
Yeah, that's kind of the perfect storm, right? It's, you never really experienced the Fire Emblem game too much, and you haven't experienced that genre. And I love that feeling of like discovering something completely new. And this is just like the perfect storm. Like it's Fire Emblem. And say what you will, like you said, not everybody loves the story. Not It's not for everybody. There are so many Fire Emblem games for a reason, because they are
Yeah.
good. They are good games. I don't have much experience in them myself, but I love that simple story. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
some sort of giga narrative like and like Avengers Endgame, where like thousands of hours of screen time is all coming to this one moment. Sometimes you just want that simple, and it's not all like that. I imagine. I'm sure there were some really cool plot twists or plot
Yeah.
intricacies. It doesn't have to be Dark Souls. Yeah. So I'm glad you had fun. So,
Yeah, I really like going back to the story. I'm totally fine with something being cliche or kind of by the books if it's
yeah.
executed really well, and that's the case here. Like I said, the writing is just really good, and it just keeps you engaged the whole time. And I really like the characters. I mean, the main character Elwood is just your typical, anime protagonist. He's just like the always do good kind of guy. But again, like it works. He's just really well written, and like you're engaged in his story because of like what's happening around him is just like very like impactful and important. So I also don't want to spoil it, so I'm kind of dancing around words a little bit, but I would recommend this one, especially for people new to the genre. The game actually has a fantastic tutorial system where effectively the first 8 or 9 chapters you're playing and you're having fun, but it's also doing a really good job at teaching you the game and teaching you the mechanics. So, would definitely recommend it for people like myself who really didn't have too much experience in the game or the franchise beforehand.
A good tutorial goes a long way. A bad tutorial has pushed me out of a lot of games, to be totally honest with
Absolutely.
you. So,
Why don't you lay on me one of your games of
ooh,
2024 that you loved?
I had one hell of a year. Hell Divers 2. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Cut it out. Cut it out. Cut it out. Um, Helldivers 2. I'm sure we've heard of that one. It had quite the ride. It was a roller coaster. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. For anybody who doesn't know, Helldivers 2 is a PVE co-op four-player kind of shoot 'em up with a live active war map. So the way it works is there are a bunch of planets. There's Super Earth, democracy, freedom, all that good stuff. Lots of guns, really big spaceships. You get all that good stuff. And the war map has two factions, now three. Well, I'll get to that in a sec. With the first opposing faction being the Terminids. It's just lots of bugs, very Starship Trooper esque. And the other being the Automatons. They're like cyborgs, kind of like Terminator. And they're at, so, Super Earth is in the middle. And then at the northwestern end, there's the Automatons. And at the northeastern end, there is the Terminids, and they take over the planets. We try to take them back. And it's this ongoing battle between us and the director. There's a literal story director that's choosing these narratives that we get to go and literally take part in. It's an active war, which is such a cool idea. Like it's so cool. That's what brought me into it, right? Is the storylines that come along with that, like the role playing potential, like people jumping on voice and random parties, which is something no one ever does. I
No
never
one
did
does that
that.
anymore. So it's
Yeah,
cool. It's cool that game's doing that. Yeah.
yeah, and I think it really is uniting the community in a way that no game really has in a long time. And there's the story of Malevelon Creek. Dear God, I will never forget. I was boots in the ground in Malevelon Creek. If you know, you know. The
Damn.
trees spoke binary. Um, it was a very very popular thing. It completely blew up on social media. Like we do it for the soldiers on Malevelon Creek. It was awesome. It was such a cool storyline. And then Sony did a thing, a very smart thing. They were going to require that you had to have a PlayStation account to sign in the Helldivers, which a lot of people didn't have. They were playing on PC. Why would they have to? Um, and there was one of the biggest responses to anything I had ever seen in the video game sphere, where people said, no, we don't want that. And Sony actually listened. They were like, all right, listen, we're not going to require it. We understand. But then they did something worse, and they took it down in all of the countries that PlayStation Network or PlayStation doesn't do business in, which is like 170 countries. Now, good news on that front. Some of the countries actually opened back up recently. So we're getting
Oh,
some,
sweet.
yeah, yeah, pretty cool. Sony,
You're getting some divers back.
yeah, we're getting reinforcements, right? It's so cool how that plays into the storyline. That's exactly my point, right? So I
Wow,
just
Sony's the mad genius here. They did a great job with this. Then that's what you're saying.
stop. It is all the credit goes to Arrowhead Studios, not Sony. Sony did not do a thing. I'm getting worked up. I gotta calm down. Um, Helldivers 2 is very near and dear to me. I still play it to this day. One of my best friends growing up, we play that all the time. Highly recommend it to anybody who likes just like third person shooters, shoot 'em up style. If you want to really get into the role play of being in a war zone, Star Wars fans, I especially recommend this to you. So yeah, just been and best multiplayer game of the year. And what was the other award? I can't remember what it was. There was a second award that Helldivers won.
Best community game, maybe. I don't know.
I think it might have been best community. Yeah, so two awards. So it definitely earned those in my book. Love that game.
Yeah, man, that's awesome to hear. I know you had a lot of fun time with Helldivers 2 this year, so I already knew it was making your list. So really cool to hear how much you enjoyed this game throughout the year. So, but jumping over to my number two is a game I've played before, but I went ahead and replayed it this year, and I did a 100% playthrough. And of course, I am talking about Stardew Valley.
Yay!
Um, Everyone hopefully knows this game. So, brief introduction. Farming simulation game kind of took the world by storm once it released and has continued to be popular post release because the creator just continues to just douse this game with updates, even though he said he was probably done updating it majorly. But then he went ahead and dropped update 1.6 this year, which just kind of added so much more to the game, especially in the end game section. So it's a game I played up to the end of the main story and a little bit after that. But this year I went ahead and I started up a new farm. I talked to all the neighbors again. I did all the chores, all that good stuff, and I did a 100% playthrough with min maxing. I did a little bit of making sure I picked the best crop and the best time of year, all that good stuff, and I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the new content that came with update 1.6. Um, Basically, the creator added a whole new. I don't want to call it like a new game plus, but it's like new game plus adjacent, where like after you've maxed out all your farming and mining and combat stats and all that good stuff, there's a whole second tier of progression that unlocks afterwards. It's called the mastery system, and once you've mastered a skill, you get even better perks. So just really, really great to see all the updates that have come to this game, and just really worth anyone's time for anyone who's like at all interested in this game. I went ahead and I put 170 hours into this game alone. So
Oh wow.
also like just the great companion for the Steam Deck. Just a great game to play on your Steam Deck. You can just take it anywhere with you.
Yeah, that good old Steam Deck. I knew it was a good one. Knew it was a good gift for the homie. For
Oh
anybody who
yeah.
doesn't know, for Ryan's marriage, his gift from us, the boys, was a Steam Deck, and it unfortunately
And the
capped
wife
out.
loved it.
And the wife, and the wife loved it. She sure did, I bet. Um, so yeah, you're absolutely right. The Steam Deck is the perfect game. Sorry, Stardew is the perfect game for something like the Steam Deck. Very along the lines of Animal Crossing, but to be totally honest with you, Stardew Valley is kind of outdoing Animal Crossing. I love Animal Crossing to death.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite games ever made. But from an outsider's perspective, it just seems that there's a lot more depth to something like Stardew Valley, which I think is just going to show how much of a computer wizard this guy is. I am not a computer wizard. I should probably be calling him something a lot more technical than that. But the guy who made this game is generationally talented, and the game shows that talent. I've still not picked up Stardew Valley. I'm sorry, Ryan.
Ah,
I will. I
what are you doing?
swear. I swear. My mom plays it. In fact, she's put like 100 hours into it, if I remember correctly. So it really does suck in whoever plays it. Um, so yeah, that I love hearing you talk about that game. To be totally honest with you, I love it so much.
Yeah, it's just a great comfort game to just kind of pick up and play whenever you want. So, I mean, I've always liked life sim games, and this is honestly the best one. This is the best one I've played, and I played a good amount now. I've played most of the Animal Crossings. I've played a little bit of Harvest Moon. So, uh, this is the best one, honestly. So anyone who like needs one game for the genre, here you go, Stardew
There
Valley.
you go.
And who knows, Eric Barone might just continue to update this game until he's like 100 years old. Until he's grandpa on the farm.
I meant to say he's doing the good old Terraria technique. All right, guys, this is the final update. It's been a good run. All right,
Yeah,
that's it. Anyway, so here's another update. This is the last one. So anyway, after that, they're gonna get another update. Like,
yeah.
uh, it's so funny.
It,
Um,
it it's pretty similar to that. Yeah.
yeah, it's great to see that he's still supporting. So for me, my number two is not a game. Actually, technically, it's a DLC. I'm pulling a Game Awards. I'm putting a DLC in the number one list. Um, Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erd Tree.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
This
whoa, 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 whoa! This is your top games of the year. We're not doing top DLC expansions. Okay,
60
I'll shut up
gigs.
now. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Actually, I'm sorry. It was like 40 gigs, I think. Yeah, that is so freaking funny. I always thought that was hilarious. Also, a very weird decision by the Game Awards. That is neither here nor there. Shadow of the Earth Tree. This is a second game that literally feels like a second. It is a second map added on to Elden Ring. You can literally fit the DLC map into the Elden Ring map. It's so big. And wow, I honestly struggle to explain just how good this is. Obviously, everybody knows how I feel about Elden Ring from earlier episodes, but honestly, this feels. Donkey put it best. I always say it. It's like stepping into a painting that was very difficult to paint. Like they really toned up the difficulty. So let's start there. The bosses were extremely difficult. Rolana, uh, this really cool, tall, uh, dual sworded knight who is like a kind of like a sorceress, technically as a female, and she does this really cool attack that where she drops a moon onto the ground like 3 times and bounces you up in the air. There's things like the final boss. Spoilers ahead. Spoilers ahead. The spoilers incoming. If you haven't played, come back later. Come back in like 10 minutes. Um, Radon comes back for a second round, but this time it's like a prime Radon and a new body, and he's got a demigod hanging off of his back and Mikola. Um, to this day, that boss on release is the most difficult thing I have ever done in my life in a video game. Nothing has come close. Now,
Dang.
it's not as hard as it was. They always do this where they'll release a game, the final boss will be really, really, really hard, and then they'll tone it back. So it's kind of like an achievement for people who get there um, early, which I was lucky enough. I had the time, I was able to get there, and man, I've hundreds of tries. I forget, I had my final number written down here somewhere, but it was well over 100.
Does
Might
the
have been
game
over
track that
200.
for you? I feel like this game needs to track that for you.
That would be really mean. That would be really mean
Yeah,
if it
maybe it would
did.
just ruin people's self-esteem. Yeah.
I don't think the community would like that very much. um, but I was just keeping track because I knew I was like, nothing. This is the penultimate Souls like boss. Nothing will come close to this ever. Um, and I liked that. Like I wanted that. And a lot of people complained about the difficulty. I think it was great. I like I like my game spicy, especially when it comes to From Software. And once I finally beat it, I cried. I literally shed tears. I was like, this is the greatest game ever made. I throw this around a lot. Oh, this is my favorite game. Oh, I love this game. This is the best game ever made. I'm going to put it in stone now after having played the DLC. Elden Ring is my favorite game I have ever played. And that game will always be a special place in my heart, man. It was so much fun. It was beautiful. The soundtrack was awesome. The set pieces were breathtaking. Everything about it was freaking amazing. And that's just number 2.
Dude, I I'm not surprised at all that Elden Ring is your favorite game. I mean, it is the penultimate Souls game, and you're a Souls guy, all right? So it makes complete sense. But awesome to hear that you enjoyed the DLC as much as you did. And it's not a game, so it doesn't belong on this list, but I'll allow it. Just kidding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, well, shall we go into our number ones? Number one
Let's
of
do it, baby.
2022, or
Let's do it.
what am I saying? 2024. All right, so my number one game of 2024, it is a remake, but it does deserve to be my number one because it is the most fun I had playing a game this year. It is Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door for Switch. So of course this
Oh,
is a remake of the GameCube classic, and they just nailed it. They just nailed this remake. I mean, the only thing I think is a noteworthy complaint is that this game runs at 30 frames per second and the original ran at 60. That is like noticeable to me when I'm playing, but they do so many other things well with this remake that it tops the original and just makes the game more accessible for like a new audience 20 years later. So gotta say, if you haven't heard of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, you're just not really too aware of it. Turn-based RPG. You're playing as Mario. You are in this interesting world that's really different than the Mushroom Kingdom. You have a slew of excellent side characters, and it's just like everything you want in a good RPG. The writing is good. The combat is fantastic. One of the best combat systems I've ever seen in an RPG. The worlds are interesting. It's got this chapter by chapter layout that's just again really engaging. They just do so many things right, and like all the settings are interesting. I just love this game. It's really just a fantastic game. It's my favorite GameCube game, and now they've remade it for the Switch in glorious HD, and made the game for a new audience. So like, what more could you ask for? They did very minor tweaks, very minor quality of life improvements, but they really didn't need to touch a lot. Like this game's incredible. There's really not too much to edit. So really enjoyed my time with the Thousand Year Door on Switch.
Yeah, and you were nice enough to lend that to me, which I have been playing. My sister also really loves it too. You had lent us Mario RPG, which we really liked, and you were like, "All right, now you get the big boy."
Yeah, now the big guns come out.
Yeah, you get the big guns, and yeah, I could totally agree. I haven't finished it, obviously, but I could totally see where you're coming from on this. You know, it's one of the most unique games ever made. I can't really think of anything like it, to be totally honest with you, other than other Paper Mario games, obviously. So that creativity really gives it its own unique feeling that you can't get from any other game. And the side characters are like my favorite. I think the side
Yeah.
characters are so funny, so endearing. Like it's just it holds up beautifully,
Yeah,
super duper well.
it holds up so well for a 20-year-old game. Like I mean, like I said, they didn't really have to touch much. So definitely my number one game of the year. Quick two honorable mentions. I meant to mention before my number one, but I jumped the gun. I was too excited. So
That's okay.
couple honorable mentions. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. This was actually the first time I played this game, which is probably like sacrilegious because I'm such a big Donkey Kong fan. But here we go. Just a fantastic platformer start to finish. One of the best 2D platformers ever. So I was just like, man, like there's just like games like this that are just out there that maybe not enough people have played. I know it like sold decent, but you know, more people need to appreciate this game as like one of the best ever, in my opinion. And then another honorable mention, Sin and Punishment Star Successor. So this is maybe a little lesser known game, but it's on the Wii. I played a lot of Wii games this year, and this was the best Wii game I played this year, I would say. It's a one of those railgun games where you don't control your character as much as you just point at the screen and you shoot. And it's
Classic.
developed by Treasure. If anyone knows anything developed by Treasure, they are known for their action, run and gun kind of games, and this one's no different. And it's just fantastic. It's got this over the top story that's just I think you're meant to just kind of appreciate how ridiculous it is, and you're really just there for the action and the gameplay, and it's great in that department. So, quick two shout outs for those two games.
Yeah, I think we talked about especially that second one in one of the previous episodes. It's nice to see it pop back up.
Yeah, man, it
So,
was a great experience playing that game. Why don't you go
mhm.
ahead and give me your number one, and if you have any honorable mentions, go ahead.
I don't have any honorable mentions. It was a very one track kind of year. I played some World of Warcraft. A new expansion came out, which was really fun. The War Within really kind of shaping up. World of Warcraft has been pretty fun lately. Played some Mario Kart with the boys, with the family. Obviously, played some Animal Crossing, Tears of the Kingdom, all my usual stuff. But my number one is the one I really want to talk about. And a lot of you may never have heard of this. Ryan, I know I have talked to you about it a little bit, but it's still quite nebulous. Ashes of Creation. What this is it's a social sandbox MMO where what that means is like the players make the content where like the interactions between players become the story of the game. There is kind of like a little bit of a story, you know, a background of the world, but what happens between players, between groups like guilds and between cities, that's the story. Like it's literally a social experiment game. Created by Intrepid Studios. It is a independently funded game. The creative director Stephen Sharif is he is independently wealthy and he is funding this project. It's currently an alpha, So it's very early alpha, lots of bugs. We're bug testing and all that stuff. Um, and I bought in just like towards the latter half of last year, and I didn't really know much about it until I was put on to the social sandbox part. Now, I'm a big D&D player. I love D&D. I love good stories that come out of role playing as characters. And man, this one took me by storm. Like I said, it's in my number one spot.
Yeah.
Um, so I am part of a very big guild. It's a very popular content creator, Pirate Software. You may have heard of him before. Great guy, doing lots of great things, and he loves these kinds of games. So he made a community in which I was lucky enough to get into, um, and I've been playing with them ever since. And I've created a bit of a reputation for myself, and a pretty good one, which is not very easy. It's very hard to maintain a good what's the word
Aura.
reputation, like I literally just said. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people have been noticing me running around the world shouting various RP phrases at people. My character, his name is Alexander. It's actually the name of my Twitch account if you're watching on Twitch. um, and he is someone who loves his city dearly, the city of Halcyon. Long live Halcyon, stuff like that. Where I'm a tank. There are three different kinds of roles. There's support, there is tank, and there is DPS. DPS being like damage per second, mage, fighter, rogue is coming out soon, stuff like that. Then there's the support, which is the bard and the healer, or I'm sorry, the cleric, which heals, and then the tank, which is literally the class. It's called tank. That's why I wanted to be a tank. Big burly armored guy. So that role play potential really stuck out to me, and a few things happened that gave me the moniker of the hero of Halcyon. So the game director himself, I'm sorry, not the game director, the creative director, Stephen Sharif, like I mentioned, was in the game, like talking to people and interacting with them, which you never see ever in an MMO. And he was telling us to help him test the game, but in the bounds of the game, like the RP of the story, where
Right.
he was like spawning enemies. And like your god requests combat, and then he would summon in a dragon right outside our city for us to go try and take down. So he did that. He did exactly that. He literally summoned a giant like world boss dragon outside of Halcyon, and it killed everybody. Literally everybody that went in the raid to go kill that dragon died. And I was like, I said in the chat that specifically for citizens of Halcyon, I said, beloved citizens, do not leave the walls of the city. There's a dragon outside. And I stood there for hours just making sure the dragon didn't go inside the city, because if it did, everyone was going to die. And I just sat there, just like eye contact with the dragon for like 2 hours until it finally despawned, thank God, so I could, start playing the game again. Um, and people started calling me the hero of Halcyon. Uh, that's a great example of this, emergent gameplay where it kind of acts like a D&D story, where you do things and your reputation matters, and you gain really cool like titles. That none of this is a game system. This is all just one-on-one interaction between players, or large interactions, like there was a war. In fact, there's a war going on right now that I will be going to fight in immediately after we get off the podcast. I fought in two of those wars, so I'm a veteran of the first and second war for Halcyon. I've also given myself the moniker of strongest pirate, because I like to work out. So that one's a little self-congratulatory, but this is why I love this game. It's like playing D&D and an MMO for a company who cares a lot about its player base, which you know, going back to the Sony stuff, it's pretty few and far between. No pay to win, just so much fun, man. Love that game to death.
That's awesome, dude. I don't have like too many experiences with games where it has like that real life role playing intertwined within the game. I don't even know if there's really that many games like that, but that's really cool that you've had such a positive experience with that. I think like stuff like that too. It keeps you super engaged. Like it's fun to just use your imagination and use your mind, and real world elements, talking to people, that kind of thing. intertwining with the game is super neat. Love that.
Yeah, and it's ongoing too. I highly recommend if that sounds interesting to anybody. It's a pretty big price tag up front because you're buying like 2 years worth of game time, and it's a subscription based game. So when it comes out, it'll be like $15 a month. I think an alpha key starts at $120 right now. Let it be known though, what you're buying is 2 years worth of game time. You are not buying a $120 game. It is a subscription based game. That is why the price tag is so high. I realize that may scare a lot of people, but that's why I bought in because I want to help test. I want to be there, when the game launches eventually after beta, probably in a couple years. So that sounds
Yeah.
interesting to anybody. Feel free to check it out. If you have any questions, I know it's a little bit nebulous. Feel free to reach out. So yeah, that was my number one. What else we got on the docket today, Rye?
Dude, I think we gotta talk a little bit about 2025. So we're about a month into the
Ooh,
year now, which is weird that February's right around the corner. But why
I
don't we
know.
just talk about 2025 expectations for different companies? Let's talk a little bit about the games we're most excited for. I think we got to start with Nintendo because just a couple weeks ago, we got the official unveiling of the Switch 2. Finally, after decades of waiting, we have confirmation that the Switch 2 exists. And kind of what we got in the trailer, which was shadow dropped on YouTube, which is the most Nintendo thing in the world. It was about a 2 minute video, really just like a rendering of the device itself. We didn't learn a whole lot about it that kind of wasn't already well known through kind of corroborated leaks of that sort of thing. But for anyone who hasn't been following the leaks, it was cool to see the device in action. Looks very similar to a Switch 1, but just bigger, a little bit better, a little more power under the hood. It's got a USB-C on the top of the device, which I think will be used for accessories and just like easier accessory usage. Also, interestingly, the trailer kind of hinted that the Joy Cons can be used like mouse if you, or I guess mice, if you kind
Right.
of like use the Joy-Con on a flat surface. It looks like they were kind of teasing that ability. And again, we know from like corroborated leaks that there is like a mouse like sensor kind of inside the Joy-Con. So I think it heavily implying like mouse feature, which I think will be cool for some games. We also got a brief look at the next Mario Kart. Looks like there's 24 racers in one match, which is pretty cool to
Yes.
see. But yeah, let's just talk about it. We don't know a whole lot that we didn't already know, but the 20-second reveal of Mario Kart 9 or Mario Kart 10, whatever they call it, was pretty cool.
Pretty cool is putting it pretty lightly, don't you think, Ryan? I was practically shaking. I was so excited. Yeah, that was really cool. But in terms of the Switch, we don't know much about it yet, other than that it looks pretty. We got to see a really the video was so satisfying. Like I can watch that video over and over again. So they did a good job with the video. But this really does feel like they're like, yes, here it is. Can you leave us alone now? Like it really
Yeah.
does feel like they were kind of forced to show it. But it seems as though they are ready. Now, in the past, we've heard lots of rumors. We know that Nintendo was in works with NVIDIA, possibly, who, for anybody who doesn't know, NVIDIA is a very, very, very powerful and advanced like computer hardware based company that makes like graphic cards, like really, really good graphics cards, which should sound exciting because that means that it's probably going to be pretty powerful. Now, Ryan, I don't know if you want to delve into what we've heard in terms of leaks about the performance, but
Sure.
I'm sure you do.
I don't mind. Hey, look, I could talk about this stuff all day. So,
Yeah.
switch to from again, like this is all. I don't want to say speculative, but it's better than speculative. It's not as good as confirmed, right? These are leaks that have been corroborated amongst multiple people that say, yes, I've heard the same thing from a different source, whatever. Um, and I'm not going to go too in the weeds on GPU, CPU, overclock, RAM power. I don't understand it, all of it, all the time. But from what the bits and pieces I gather is that the expectation is the device will be more powerful than the PS4 Pro and maybe within line or a little bit less powerful than the Xbox Series S, which is a current gen console. So if that's true, that is plenty powerful for what I would want. And I don't think anyone was expecting like PS5 or PS5 Pro levels because it is a hybrid console at the end of the day. If it was ever that powerful, there's no way it would be affordable or have a long enough battery life. But
Yeah.
anyway, if it's a Xbox Series S kind of power and this is a portable console, hybrid console, that's fantastic. I mean, the level of games we would get out of that would be great to see. I mean, Nintendo is going to do their thing, and a lot of their games are not like super hyper realistic that really depend on this power. But you're going to get games like Mario Kart that now have the power to just easily run 60 frames per second, 24-person matches online. Like that's just like really great stuff right there.
It
What
really
also
is.
like makes me excited is with that power, you will get whatever games developers are willing to port from the PS4 days. We're talking like upgraded ports of The Witcher, which yes did appear on Switch One, but imagine a PS4 Pro level The Witcher 3 on your Switch, a portable system. Any game you wanted to pick from the PS4 generation should be possible, which makes me excited personally.
Oh my god, yeah, you kidding me? Oh my goodness, that is so exciting. Now, you and I are Steam Deck enjoyers, so we kind of get a glimpse of what this will be like. In fact, I don't think it's even that powerful. I think it definitely is comparable to something like a PS4, but definitely not a PS4 Pro. So this will be something brand new, and I'm really glad because it'll elevate games that I love on the Switch that are kind of held back. Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild are a great example
Oh
of
yeah.
this. 30 frames per second, very stuttery, especially in Tears of the Kingdom. Um, I actually played it last night on handheld. It performs really well on there, yes, granted. But, we want to see something perform well on the TV as well. And I think that the Switch 2 will be that powerful of a console. I'm also really hoping that my Joy Cons don't fall apart. That would be
Yes.
great. Please, Nintendo. And it really is nice to see them kind of do something they're not necessarily too super known for in making it kind of like a pseudo computer. I don't know if that'll be the case. Obviously, like we don't know if that mouse capability will mean that it's going to be like a second computer or sorry, like a laptop. But I hope so. It would be really really cool. I love that I can do that with my Steam Deck. Although I do not know a single thing about how to use Linux, which is very frustrating. Um, but yeah, to be able to play very graphically intensive games like on the PS4 and PS4 Pro, that would be awesome. And I'm really excited to see. We're going to find out in a couple months. It's going to be in, what is it, May, if I remember correctly?
April, man. So April, we
April.
got a
Frick.
software showcase.
Yeah.
It's a Nintendo Direct, but they're going to show off Switch 2 games and probably give us more details about the console. I would probably expect they give us the price, they give us the release date, that kind of thing. Um, yeah, I think like Nintendo is playing this super well. Like they announced the console now. They don't give us too many details. The only things we know about the console are like the video they showed us. Like what it physically looks like. We know Mario Kart 9 is a thing and we know it's backwards compatible and supports NSO. Like that's all they've given us so far, but it's still really exciting. And Nintendo historically always tries to place things close to their chest, especially modern day. The Switch era, they play things very close to their chest until they're really ready to reveal. And sometimes they reveal a game and it's like 3 months out till release. They've been doing a lot
Yeah.
of that in the Switch era. So kind of what I'm expecting is I kind of expect that same thought process and a similar trend to the Switch 1 reveal. If I remember correctly, Switch 1 was revealed. Sorry, they announced they were going to reveal it October 2016. January 2017, we get the reveal trailer and then it turn around and release in March. So like I would expect something similar. I would expect a June release date based off, 2 months from this April reveal or, more proper reveal. Me personally, I'm expecting a $400 price point. I think that is a really good price point for Nintendo to hit. That
Agreed.
will be $100 less than the PS5 disc model, but within line of the PS5 discless model, without the disc drive. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I
I
don't
don't
blame
think
you.
they can go too much above 400 because at that point you're pricing yourself in line with the PS5, which might send the wrong message to consumers. I think people like the cheaper entry point at the Switch and being able to maybe buy multiple for multiple family members, children, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm expecting that. I'm also expecting 3D Mario on release and Mario Kart on release at
Please.
least. So bang. That's all my
Please.
predictions right out in the open. Curious what you think.
Oh man. If we could get a 3D Mario on release, man, that would be awesome. Only thing that would be better than that is a 3D Donkey Kong game, but I won't go there.
Ah,
Uh, yeah,
that'd be
I
amazing.
think I think that's a slam dunk, right? I think they've been working on um, a Mario game for a while now. Everybody knows that the worst part of being a Mario fan is waiting for the next game, and it's been a while. 2017, the Switch came out, and was Odyssey a like day one drop? I don't remember.
It was not. It was a launch window title. I think it
Okay,
launched like 6 months, 9 months after the console launched.
so around the same time frame, right?
Yeah.
We were seniors in high school in 2017. I'm 25 now. It's been a long time. Uh, man, I feel old, man. We're getting old. My knees hurt, my back hurts, man. But yeah, I think Mario is going to be a day one drop. I'm really very curious to see what it will be about, like what kind of changes they'll make to the Mario formula. Man, I can't wait. And I think you're exactly right. I think June is going to be the time frame, or at least like summertime, sometime in that area. And you made a really good point about um, not pricing it in the range of something like the PS5, because Nintendo has always done a great job, kind of, um, being in their own league, their consoles, kind of being their own thing compared to like what Xbox and PlayStation is doing. If they were to price that high, that people would naturally compare it to something like the
Yeah.
PS5 and the Xbox, which it just will not be able to do. It's not possible. So I think that pretty much guarantees that it's going to be in the lower range, which makes my wallet very happy. There's a lot of video games to buy nowadays. So yeah, that was a really good point on your end.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility they'd price it at 500, but I would think it would be a mistake. And that's not me
Agreed.
just being like a cheapo consumer, but just from a strategic standpoint, I do think they want to continue to distance themselves from the other guys, Sony and Microsoft. Nintendo, since the Switch generation, I mean, they've always done their own thing, but the Switch generation really solidified themselves as like having their own niche. Like they don't want to directly compete with Sony and Microsoft anymore in the same way they used to. So I think like 400 would be a nice price point to kind of maintain what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
I also just think like in terms of release strategy, if you look back at Nintendo hardware throughout the years, they like to try to do both. They like to release with a multiplayer game and a single player game. So I think like releasing with a Mario Kart and releasing with a 3D Mario would be a good way to fulfill that need. Yes, they are both Mario, so you're not like hugely diversifying, but they are both Mario. Like they both sell.
They
And it
sure
just
do.
doesn't make sense completely. Like Zelda timeline doesn't line up. We just had Tears of the Kingdom in 2013, or Jesus, 2023. Um, so I think like 3D Mario just makes the most sense for your single player game.
Agreed. And we know that Nintendo only makes bangers on that front. So I think we have a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, and great point by Sir Crumpler in the chat. So, of course, Metroid Prime 4 is a thing, and I do expect that to be cross compatible with Switch 2. It's already confirmed for Switch 1,
Oh my
but that'd be
god,
another great single player release for release day.
it's coming. It's there. It's coming. I can't believe it.
Yeah, man. So, besides the Switch 2 or, complimentary Switch 2, what are some 2025 games that you're looking forward to this year that you feel the need to share?
So I don't have too much exciting in the way of what I'm looking forward to in 2025 because I've already mentioned them. Obviously, I am looking forward to Elden Ring Night Rain the most. I cannot wait to get my hands on that game. I assume it's going to come out in the latter half of the year. It's going to run its course in the around the holidays in 2025. Just the smart thing to do. That's what they always do. Usually, I'm pretty sure that's what they did. It was a summer release date for the DLC, so they'll probably no sooner than the summer we'll see Elden Ring, Night Rain. Looking forward to that one a lot. Looking forward to all the stuff coming out in Ashes of Creation. Obviously, they're rolling out content on like a very fast train right now. Like every few weeks, we get something like brand new that we haven't seen before. So by the end of 2025, Ashes of Creation is going to be a brand new game. So I'm excited to take part in more events and do all the new content in Ashes of Creation. And other than that, that's pretty much it for me. I'm a simple guy. You give me some Elden Ring, you give me a fun MMO, I'm happy.
Yeah, man. You got some games that like are definitely ongoing. So I feel like that's like kind of your path in 2025. And you're spoiled, man. You're getting an Elden Ring sequel right after getting an Elden Ring expansion. So you got a lot of Souls likes in your future. Or I guess maybe more of a roguelike than a Souls like
Yeah,
coming out in 2025. But good stuff for you, man. I would say like some of my more anticipated games, and it matters a lot like what games are coming to Switch 2 because I will adopt the Switch 2 probably early on in the console life cycle, depending on what's there on release. But a couple games I got to shout out: Metal Gear Solid Delta. This is going to be a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3. Um, this looks really good. I think people were kind of weary because, of course, Kojima's not with Konami anymore. So, like, how good is a remake going to be? But it looks pretty solid so far from gameplay and
it does.
teasers and the like of that. I know you're looking forward to this one, Adonis. Monster Hunter Wilds is coming out in 2025. I
God,
mean,
I totally forgot.
it's just more Monster Hunter. Like Monster Hunter is awesome. Like I know you're looking forward to that, my guy, and you shouldn't have forgotten that one. But I
Yeah,
got you. Don't
thank
worry.
you. You see, this is why you have a good friend like Ryan for these moments where you forget one of the games that you're like literally overwhelmingly excited about. Yeah, this just goes to show there's a lot going on this year, and it's going to be a great year, especially for a gamer like me. Monster Hunter Wilds is coming out imminently in almost exactly a month. Very similar to Monster Hunter Wild, or sorry, Monster Hunter World. I put 1,000 hours into that game. Man, I am so excited for Wilds. I totally forgot. I will say though, it's much more of a simpler game. It's not like something big like Elden Ring. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna walk back on that. This game's going to be
I'm gonna.
monumental.
I was gonna challenge you, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I think what I'm trying to say is like it's not something that is on a lot of people's radar, but it sure will be when it comes out. This is going to be what I think is the biggest push to a world release for Monster Hunter, where they're trying to get it into the mainstream, and I think it will succeed greatly. Monster Hunter World was a like generationally good game, and this is like the natural successor to Monster Hunter
Yeah.
World. And it's going to be what Elden Ring did for Souls likes, right? Brought it to the mainstream. You got people like Kai Cenat playing Elden Ring, which you would never have expected because it's so good that literally anyone can play it and have fun. I think that's what Monster Hunter Wilds will be. I'll be playing that bad boy quite a bit. You get to bring two weapons out this time. I'm going to be busting out the good old gun lance because I'm a gun lance enjoyer. Other people should be, but I guess they're just not strong enough to wield it. And the great sword, classic, big old sword, takes a long time to swing, big meaty damage, big old monsters. You get a mount in this game that you can run
Yeah.
around with. Lots to look forward to on that front. Wow, I am ashamed in myself. Not gonna lie.
You should be ashamed, but don't
All
worry. I'm
right,
here for you. I'll remind you this game's coming out. Shout out Capcom though, man.
thanks.
This series, you touched on Monster Hunter World. Since Monster Hunter World has just blown up. Like this game was always like steadily popular, getting more and more popular, especially in Japan. It's got a great footing. But man, like just mainstream attention since Monster Hunter Worlds. Monster Hunter Rise on Switch and PC it later came to PC and other consoles. Like another fantastic game and like a great showing off of what the Switch could do. In my opinion, one of the best looking Switch games, but also just a fun game in its own right. So, yeah,
Yeah,
getting another Monster Hunter in 2025 is something I'm looking forward to, and can't wait to look into that. My most anticipated game, and again, I feel like I'm just like a little cloudy because we don't know exactly what's going on with Nintendo. But the one game we do know about is Metroid Prime 4, and that is my most anticipated game for 2025. I'm assuming it's coming to Switch 2 as well. as Switch One, and dude, the Metroid Prime games are just fantastic. So
You
you
sure are.
really, I mean, Retro Studios is behind it again. I think there was another studio developing it at the beginning, but clearly things weren't going great for them. The entire development restarted in 2019. So, what has been going on with this game? Like, why is it taking so long? I would only hope that, sure, I'm sure there's a lot of conflict behind the scenes, but I'm sure it's creating something that's just crazy good. So, I just can't wait for this game. To end it on a
Yeah.
sad note, though, I got to say, Earthblade was one of my most anticipated games of 2025. It was the game from the creators of Celeste. The game has now been canceled though. Just last week they
Yeah.
announced the cancellation of this game, and I was sad about this one, man. It was supposed to be a Metroidvania in the same art style, same studio that brought you Celeste, and I was just like, man, that would have been so good. I'm sad that it's canceled.
I agree. But there's another one that I forgot about that may help us end on a better note. Thank you to you in the chat. You know who you are. That just reminded me of this. Doom has returned. Doom the
Yep.
Dark Ages. Doom guys going back to the medieval times. I won't spend too long about this because it's a honestly it's a very simple concept. It's literally just a prequel to Doom 2016. Doom guy has a cape and a chainsaw sword and like old school very rudimentary weapons. It's like a medieval Doom. It's literally as simple as that. You get a cool like cybernetic dragon. You get a giant super mech like Jaeger from what's that, Pacific Rim. That one's also going to be great and very similar to Monster Hunter Wilds in that they're trying to appeal to a wider audience this time. No multiplayer, fully single player. Also, very much so looking forward to that one. I don't think have I forgotten about anything else, Ryan. I know you are the best at telling me which games I've forgotten. So have I forgotten anything else?
I don't think so, man. I mean, I know
Okay.
Death Stranding's coming out. I don't think you're a huge Death Stranding,
Yeah.
or Death Stranding 2, I should say. There's a new Like a Dragon game. You already touched on Doom, so I think
Hmm.
we hit like the ones you'd be interested in.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's gonna do it for me. That's my 2025. Looking forward.
Maybe one that you might be interested in, Pokemon Legends Z to A. Have you put any thought into
Oh.
that game? Like we haven't seen anything besides like the CGI trailer, but
Yeah.
does that interest you at all?
So I'm a little down on Pokemon for obvious reasons. I think a lot of people are in the same boat, but I loved Arceus, and this is very similar. So I'm going to give it a shot, but I am not looking forward to it. I need to be impressed to really love this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, it's been too many burns left and right with the Pokemon series, man. I just can't keep doing it.
I'm the same way. I'm kind of I enjoyed Scarlet, but I enjoyed it in such a gross way. Like I still like think
Yeah.
about it with like disdain, and I put like 30 hours into it. It's one of those
Yeah.
weird paradoxes. But my experience with it is just like I'm done being burned by the Pokemon Company. I'm gonna wait until they put out another 9 or a 10 worthy game. I don't want
Yeah.
to settle anymore with these games. The one thing that makes me excited about it is they're actually taking their time with it. They could have released this game in the winter season 2024, like they always do. They always have some sort of annual release nowadays, but they decided not to. So they're purposefully holding back. I hope that means they're taking more time to develop it and make it less buggy and all that good stuff. But time will tell.
It will. And then there's something like Power World that totally blows Pokemon out of the water. Haven't talked about
Yeah,
that one yet, but we sure will. Don't you worry. There's a lot going on over there. So Ryan,
yeah,
why
man.
don't we do something classic, something very near and dear to the KongaCast? What have you been playing recently, Ryan?
Dude, it is great to talk to you about what I've been playing recently. And I got two big boys that I've been playing in January that's been taking up most of my time. But I'll start with a smaller guy. I was playing this game. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. Beetle Adventure Racing for the Nintendo 64. It's one of those games like if you're into the N64 library, you like this game or you've heard of it at least. But if you're not like a N64 nerd, then it's not like ever on your radar.
Classic.
But It's actually a game developed by EA, and it was actually supposed to be a Need for Speed game, but then they got the license for Beetle Volkswagen, and then they just slapped that on top. So it's effectively a Need for Speed game, and it's fun. It's just like a fun N64 racer. It's just got like some charm to it. I enjoyed it. So, but let me hit you with a big boy. All right, that
Okay.
was a little appetizer.
All right. Let's hear it.
Uh, I've been playing Red Dead Redemption on Xbox 360. This is my first time playing this game, and I just completed it the other night. I just completed it Sunday,
Oh,
and what a game, man! What a fantastic game. I'm not going to go too much into the story, but I just like the environment. I like how it makes you feel like a cowboy. It feels like you're playing a Western movie. It basically feels like you're playing a movie, which I enjoyed. I don't play a whole lot of games that are super narrative driven. Kind of a gameplay kind of takes a backseat. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but
no, of
clearly the
course.
the narrative is the focus. And I really enjoyed it, man. Just a great game.
Yeah, that is one that I played at a very young age. Probably younger than I should have in retrospect. But yeah, it is like a generational type of game. That's what really set up Rockstar in, setting them up to have the reputation that they do, just as much as GTA.
Yeah,
Red Dead, maybe not so much GTA. That's a bit much. But like it to me is on that level of quality, especially Red Dead 1. Now, I like Red Dead 1 better than Red Dead 2. I love Red Dead 2. But Red Dead 1 is a very special game to me because the ending was phenomenal. Like,
yeah, really good ending.
I, yeah, then I was young at the time. Didn't really have the brain capacity to, like, really grasp all of the important points of the plot. But even then, I was like, this is one of the greatest stories I've ever played in a game. And it only has improved as time has gone on, especially now that we have a sequel, or sorry, a prequel that kind of explains how we got to that point, which, there was a lot of questions that had been left open from the first Red Dead game. And yeah, I'm so glad you played that. Uh, I won't get into any spoilers for that one because I know some people may not have played it. But yeah, that one is a banger and a half.
Oh yeah, dude. I appreciated my time with it, and I had maybe like a couple things I didn't love about the plot or I didn't love about John's decision making, but I for the most part liked it a lot. So I'm gonna play Red Dead 2 at some point this year, maybe in the next couple months or so. I got a couple other ones I want to get to first, but Red Dead 2, from what I hear, is even better. I know you said you're a Red Dead 1 guy, but looking forward
Yeah,
to
that's
Red Dead
just
2
me.
at some point.
That's just me.
Yeah.
And
What have you been playing recently?
well, for me, uh, afraid I have another boring answer for you because it's all games that I've already been mentioning. I have been really putting some hours in Ashes of Creation. What I'm doing right now is currently the Met level cap is 25. Just been leveling like crazy in high end dungeons. Like called Carfin Tower. It's like a big tower with high level mobs. Just sit there for hours on end and grind away, hang out with your friends in voice, like do cool like RP events and stuff like that. It's just been an absolute blast. My character is pretty well geared now. I got pretty much some of the best gear in the game for my class. Um, so I've taken my game time towards more RP and PvP. There have been players that are exploiting. I take great um, satisfaction in killing them specifically in game. Um, and we've been trying to make sure to report bugs, and we literally, as I get off of this call, I have to go fight in a node war. Node being like the city, like Halcyon was somebody declared war on Halcyon again, so we got to go beat them again. We're 2-0, and we're going to be 3-0 by the end of the night. I'll make sure of that. So yeah, just been going hog wild on that game. You and I played some Mario Kart, played some Mario Tennis, been
Yep.
playing some of those games as well. I've taken to playing Tears of the Kingdom before bed because it has such a nostalgic slash like serotonergic feeling that you get when you're playing that game. It just helps me go to sleep, I guess. Um, so I've been playing a little bit of that as well, and yeah, that's been pretty much it. I can't think of anything else. I played a little bit of Warframe. Have you ever heard of that game, Ryan?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, totally free game. Thousands of hours of content. Looter shooter, um, Lots of loot, lots and lots and lots of loot. Just a very grind heavy game. Totally free to play. You can play 100% of that game free, which is awesome. So that's why I played it. Um, yeah, that's definitely it. I haven't played anything outside of those games.
I got one more that I've been playing as well, and I gotta shout
Ooh.
this one out. I've been playing the original Saints Row. No, not the 2022 reboot. We don't talk
Yeah.
about that game. I've been playing the original that came back out and or came out back in 2006, I believe. And what a game, man! I mean, I grew up playing Saints Row 3 here and there with my cousins, and I recently played Saints Row 4 a couple years ago, and they're both fantastic. I wouldn't say everyone, but the community is a little divided. Which is better, one or two, or three and four? Because tonally they're pretty different. Um, and so I made it a goal this year to play all the Saints Row games. I'm going to play all one through four, and there's also a spin-off game also on 360. So there's five total games that are on my radar, and I really enjoyed Saints Row 1. I mean, it's a fantastic introduction to the series. It played more like GTA Vice City than GTA 5 in some of the gameplay departments, which I was a little surprised about. But it was a launch title for the 360, so it makes sense that it feels a little dated in some of the gameplay department. But I mean, I really enjoyed Saints Row 1. I really enjoyed the narrative. I thought it was pretty creative. And Saints Row 2, a lot of people say is the best. So that's on my radar. I actually have all the Saints Row's games behind me except Saints Row 2. It's the only one I haven't found in a thrift store or anything like that. So I'm just waiting until I find two, and then I'm going to just crank out the rest of them sequentially.
Very nice. Yeah, we don't talk about that new one, but the old ones, those were like, I remember those being on the same par as GTA, which should say enough in itself, right? Classic.
Yeah, it
Classic those are.
definitely created its own identity away from GTA. Like, yes, they're both open world crime games. You do what you want, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's got its own feel. It's got its own tone, which I've always appreciated. It's not a true clone. You know, they do their own thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, I think that brings us to the end there, friend. It's a good to be
Yeah, man.
back, man.
That's the only game. That's the last game I've been playing in 2025 so far, besides the Mario Tennis and Mario Kart, which you mentioned. So I
Indeed.
think that's gonna do it. I think that's gonna do it for this edition of KongaCast. Thank you all for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, make sure to rate 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Music and follow the show to hear more. To stay up to date on the show, make sure to follow us on Twitter at KongaCast. For all business inquiries, please email kongacast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.
Bye bye. Take care.